Which teams are going to rise in 2023? I think Bill Connolly, for my money, puts out one of the best late winter, early spring features, pieces of content on ESPN.com, where he talks about returning production rate. But he, very wisely, a few years ago, realized it's not just about how many guys return. It's not about how many returning starters you have. That's one of the most overrated metrics in college football. How much production do you return? And also, what kind of production is worth more? For example, I think it would surprise you to learn the numbers state that losing experience on the defensive line is actually not as costly as losing experience on the back end. I would have thought it was the other way around, but the numbers do not bear that out. So anyway, using some of Bill Connolly's work and then just using some basic observational techniques, I want to ask you, right along with me here, maybe we'll think of the same teams, who would you expect to rise in 2023? And when we say rise, clearly we just mean better record than they have last year. Florida State is a slam dunk, number one. This is not the last time I'm talking about Florida State tonight. But what don't they have? I'm sure I'll get pushback from Gainesville and Coral Gables here, so I'll just ask you guys in advance, knowing the comment section like I do, what don't they have? Think about what it would take to equip them to jump. What don't they have? I'll tell you what they do have. Out of all those, I think we have 133 FBS teams now. That's breaking news in and of itself. Welcome to the party, Sam Houston State. We got 133 of them. Florida State, number one in returning production. And those are big-time players, as has been well chronicled at this point. One of them is Jordan Travis, the quarterback. One of them is Jared Verse. Could very well be a top 20 first-round NFL draft pick had he decided to go out. They have been a destination for portal players. I'm rehashing a lot of stuff you already know. But the only pushback I think you could give me on this is, well, they already won 10 games last year. It'd be one thing if we're talking about a 7-win team. I'm going to mention 1, 2, 3, actually, coming up, that just didn't win a lot of games last year. So maybe you're thinking, well, yeah, all that sounds good, but they're going to have to win 11 games for this to be a slam dunk. You heard me, right? And Jesse, we're looking at a list right now of the notable returnees. We've mentioned, obviously, Jordan Travis. We've mentioned Jared Verse. Also, I think it should be noted how well they've done in the portal and also, therefore, how that's being reflected in the odds market. See, normally, if you look at the ACC standings and you look at preseason odds, you see Clemson, then there's this gulf, and then you pause for more dramatic effect, and then you list whoever's next. That is not the case now. Clemson is plus 1,600 to win the college football playoff national title this coming year. Florida State's plus 1,800. Vegas is viewing them almost as equal, almost as the same team, and that has not been the case in the ACC for quite a while. So, yeah, I will take that bold stance. I know everyone's going to have FSU as their preseason sleeper, dark horse, neither of which they should be because, as we just said, they won 10 games this past year. I'm going to tell you, my early February thinking is I'd go north of 10 if I get to count the bowl game or, dare I say, a college football playoff appearance or even an ACC championship appearance. Wow, what rarefied language to use around FSU. Might I also shift your attention to the SEC East for a second? I am going to mention a program here, and it's the University of Missouri. Look at the aggressive stance I take when talking about Missouri. I've gotten a little tired of waiting, but I also practice and preach patience on the show. So we're entering year 4 of Eli Drinkwitz. You, like many of us, probably remember him as being there for 3 years, but nope, somehow there's just another year that got snuck in there on us. So he started in the COVID year, and this is about to be his 4th season. They are 9th in the Bill Connolly returning production category. So that's all well and good. They've gone 5-5, 6-7, 6-7. Under Drinkwitz, they've, I think, finished 500 in the regular season every single year. Now, we're a cycle removed from them bringing home the number 15 overall class in the 24/7 Sports team recruiting rankings. And I think that once a freshman class doesn't immediately pop, which doesn't happen most of the time, but there's a backwards logic out there. If it doesn't immediately just blow up the record and they win 3 more games than they did last year, everyone forgets. This is the year when that previous recruiting cycle should really start to take root. Immunity. They get LSU, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida at home. That is a very fortuitous draw because they've got Georgia on the road. To me, if I were Missouri, I just want to play my toughest games on the road anyway. I'm not beating Georgia either way. I say that, but then I look at the next point I have written down here. Some of their closest games this past season, one of them was Georgia. They pushed Georgia as hard as anyone in the regular season. And the other reason I feel confident about them making a jump from winning 6 games is they weren't getting blown out. It's not like Michigan State. They were losing close games. I still have no clue how the Auburn game happened. That's a loss. The history books remember it as a loss. If you need to refresh your memory, it's a 17-14 loss. Go watch how that thing ended. But they led Georgia late in the fourth quarter. They lost 26-22. Another loss was by 4 points to Kentucky. They lost, Tennessee was a splattering. But other than that, they were competitive in a lot of those games. So, yeah, I can see one possession loss to Auburn. I could see this easily. How about Texas A&M? Hold on. Paper pop for A&M. It's a paper pop of desperation. I am kind of going down along with you guys because I'm the one who sat here and said you had a disaster-proof roster. Yes, friends, if you've been on vacation the past week, I've been taking the necessary measure of publicly shaming myself for saying such a thing because disaster struck. So it wasn't disaster-proof. Now, that was last year, so it's not going to be, or shouldn't be all that difficult to improve on not making a bowl game with one of the most talented rosters in America. They've got number 7 in the Bill Connolly returning production metrics. So they're set up very well. They have recruited very well. Connor Wegman is a very good quarterback, or should be. They brought in a guy in Bobby Petrino who should be an upgrade at offensive coordinator. Very excited to see how that pans out. And again, just as I said to begin this portion, all I have to do is make a bowl game here. That's a win for us. We're just saying they're going to make a jump. We're not saying they're jumping into title contention, although crazier things have happened. I would argue A&M being in the playoff hunt this year wouldn't be as crazy as them missing a bowl game last year. That's the crazy part. Another team is the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, this is the one that bucks the numbers a little bit because the numbers, at least if you believe in hardcore dedicating yourself to the returning production metrics, does not lean Oklahoma. They're 77th in returning production. However, I now have to insert a little bit of necessary context. Oklahoma also barely made a bowl game. So you could have brand new players out there, especially if they're better or just more talented than the ones that are departing, could be a net upgrade. And that kind of leads to the entire logic I'll have about Oklahoma for the next several months. When the back-to-back classes they've just signed are number 4 and number 8, and they've done a good job in the portal, I almost don't want a ton of returning production because the production I had wasn't all that great last year. So I want some fresh blood. I want to insert my players. And it's maybe not necessarily a quarterback thing. I think everyone thinks Jackson Arnold when they think Oklahoma recruiting. These are deep recruiting classes. It goes well past just the quarterback. It's not top heavy at all. So, yeah, I see that they're the 77th ranked team in returning production. I don't care. They return head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They look really good in recruiting. They look really good at quarterback. I don't necessarily know that you have to dig too much deeper there. Oklahoma certainly qualifies as a team poised, at least, to make a jump. And if you're interested in the schedule, they're last in the Big 12. Where do they go? Well, they go to Kansas. They go to Oklahoma State. They go to Brigham Young, which is a conference game this year, by the way. They've got Texas, obviously, in Dallas. And they got Cincinnati, their first conference game this year. To let you know about the current state of college football. Think about this sentence. In Oklahoma's final season in the Big 12, their first conference game of the season will be on the road at Cincinnati. Tell yourself that in 2020. And then tell me you're willing to laugh at any prediction about this sport. Like, no one, if someone would have predicted that, you would have laughed at him. And so my point is, don't ever laugh at predictions, because the crazier they are sometimes, the more likely they are to just be dead on the money in a few years.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Make sure you like the video, and please subscribe to the channel. Not just for me, that's how we keep this entire thing free.